Video review.
When it was revealed at the 2007 Game Developers Conference, Little Big Planet wowed the crowd with its Web 2.0 take on the humble platforming genre. Since then, it's gone from being the little game that could to one of Sony's major 2008 releases. Well, we're happy to report that Little Big Planet's lost none of its indie sensibilities in that time, from its homemade patchwork visual style to the enormous level of creativity it affords players throughout the entire game. Little Big Planet is a game designed to be experienced with friends, and it's a concentrated, pure burst of fun and outlandish creativity through its time. While the main story is ultimately way too short, the creation tools here are comprehensive and should allow the community to go wherever their imagination takes them.
Planet Earth. Or as the rest of the Omniverse call it, the Orb of Dreamers.
The Little Big Planet itself is where human imagination collects when it's released into the cosmos. It gathers and forms itself into a planet where ideas can run wild. Truth be told though, story isn't too much of a concern in Little Big Planet's manic universe, but this setup certainly allows the game's designers to go out there with incredibly memorable characters, locations and set pieces. You'll play in exotic Indian temples, ride snow dogs across the Arctic wasteland, and use a spring to defeat a ninja henchman, among many other iconic moments. There are 8 theme worlds in total, each with 3 or 4 individual levels that take around 10 minutes each to finish. Your representation in this world is Sackboy. This endearingly cute ragdoll is your first point of creativity, because when you collect new materials and clothing in the story mode, you can constantly change his appearance. You can dress him up in costumes, add accessories such as hats and glasses, and even add a zebra head and tail if you like. Sackboy is also highly controllable physically, and you can use the controller's triggers and analog stick to move his arms and even smack other players in the face. D-pad controls his facial expressions too. You can tap up to make him happy and tap down to make him sad, among many other things, and repeatedly tapping in certain directions further emphasises these emotions for other people to see. You can also use the motion sensor to move Sackboy's head and hips, even making him dance along or nod to the music if you like. And with so much control over your character, you end up spending time out during each level just to change clothes and pull faces, maybe even sticking a ruffle sticker to your buddy's forehead. While you open up new levels pretty easily, the real challenge comes from finding all the hidden items, keys and point bubbles that Media Molecule have hidden all over the maps. Collecting these items allows more creative freedom using stickers, whereas music and materials can be used in the creation mode afterwards. There are even some simple puzzles. You can put stickers down in certain places to unlock more loot, and there are areas that you can only access by playing in the 2 to 4 player mode. It basically means that the levels have significant replay value, especially if you're a completist who wants to collect everything in the game. It's actually easier to play through the story mode on your own, but most sections are definitely much more fun with friends. Figuring out the puzzles and experiencing the set pieces with other people is easily the best thing about Little Big Planet. Unfortunately, there's a downside to playing in multiplayer, and it's something that afflicts platforming games in general: the camera. It frequently struggles to frame the action, and considering the frequent situations in which precision jumps are definitely required, certain sections become nigh on impossible. The generous spacing of respawn points lets you retry most of the tricky sections immediately, but if you fail after using up all of your lives, you have to go back and restart the entire level. There are many occasions in multiplayer when we were playing in which we intentionally killed all of the supplementary players just so that one player could go on and try a section without the camera jerking all over all the time. The result is a bit of a dilemma. Little Big Planet is undoubtedly miles more fun in multiplayer, but it's a lot easier to play alone. As well as the traditional platforming levels, there are also bonus levels that you can open up by collecting keys along the way. There are some brilliant mini-games on offer here, an homage to Line Rider, the car drag races, even a game where you bounce off meerkat heads to collect points. While they're also great fun to play with friends, they're just not enough to push the completion time beyond about 6 hours, meaning you can see the entire game in 2 sittings. Sure, you can go back and collect bonus items, but this is easily the biggest disappointment of the entire game. While Media Molecule's levels are brilliant showcases of level design and imagination, they're just over far too quickly. Once you've gone through and finished the story mode and built up a stock of creation tools, you'll want to head over to the My Moon that orbits the Little Big Planet to start creating. The creation tools are comprehensive, which is why you have to go through plenty of tutorials to just learn the basics. You begin by moving items around with the poppet, but things soon become a lot trickier when you have to start creating characters and moving objects. Enemies and allied characters have to be given AI routines just so they know whether to follow or run away from a player when they're approached. The physics system is fairly realistic, so making things is common sense, but it's time consuming to construct even the simplest moving object. Creating moving objects is based around joining items with pins, so there are a lot of tweakable aspects to go over, such as angles and speed of movement. Given the work required to build even simple systems, it's a pretty momentous task to recreate something on the scale of the levels made by the developers themselves. Thankfully, Media Molecule has made the task much easier by letting you use the pre-made objects and level templates from the main game itself. This makes it a lot easier to start dropping in characters, structures and vehicles, although you still want to adapt them to create your own look. Perhaps the other problem for budding designers is that the game has 3 separate planes to work on, which lets players move between fore, middle and background while playing through the level. Once you have your main content in place, you can add finishing touches such as respawn points, dynamic music that changes according to player proximity, and characters that offer instructions on what you need to do in the level. You can also throw in point bubbles and prizes to encourage players to play through your level, and of course it's a good idea to play through them repeatedly to make sure that others won't get stuck. With all this in mind, it's no small feat to create a Little Big Planet level that people will actually want to play. The reality, at least according to what we've seen happen in the beta of the game, is that home designers will use the tools to make much smaller creations than Media Molecule's levels. We've seen some great creations so far, one based on a nightclub as well as the TV show The Crystal Maze, in addition to video game homages such as Space Invaders and Breakout. They're simple ideas that incorporate simple systems already built by the developers, and they're probably a good indication of where the community is going to take the game. The online integration of Little Big Planet is really nice because you can see which of your friends are online and just jump straight into their pod. The multiplayer online mode works well, if not quite as smoothly as it does locally, but you can't go into the create mode with friends until an update is released by Sony after the game's release. Sharing also works really well online. You pick the levels that you've already created to submit online and then people can just play straight through them. When people have finished a level, they can choose preset tags to help describe the content on offer, and this helps Little Big Planet group similar levels together. So if you like what you're playing, you can search for creations that have similar tags. You can also add a heart to your favourite designers and search through all of their levels, and the system streams content live from the network so you don't have to save anything at all. If you really like a level or fancy adapting what you've seen, you can also cheekily take the levels that have been submitted online and copy them to your own moon for later. All in all, it's a really well implemented system that looks like it can cope with the content that's bound to flood the system after the game's release. Little Big Planet is a beautifully assembled game with a patchwork visual style that actually covers the technical achievements underneath. There are lots of smaller details such as reflectivity in the collectible balls, as well as some really nice fire, smoke and electricity effects. It may be pretty cruel to watch Sackboy die, but he can be electrocuted, burned and disintegrated in a variety of ways, each resulting in a highly detailed effect. Special mention should also go to the physics system, which is pitched just a fraction beyond realistic to allow for some amazing stunts, jumps and races. Then there's a soundtrack, a mix of genres from indie artists such as the Go Team and Jim Noir, that suit the game perfectly. Finally, we have to give a nod to narration from British comedian Stephen Fry, because apart from his insistence that you don't post anything rude online, his voice is just as charming as the rest of the game. All in all, Little Big Planet is a startlingly imaginative take on the platforming genre, and though it's all too short, the story mode will appeal to anyone regardless of age or ability. On the creation side, only the most hardcore fans will be up for the task of making compelling content, but the tools are here to help them realise their imagination. Little Big Planet is an experience that no one should miss out on, and it has the potential to go wherever the community takes it.